do you think sensory input plays in ADHD, or just the ability to focus?
So sensory input is going to be one of those things that some children with ADHD have and others might not. And so, if you have a child who absolutely hates certain noises or sights or textures, the feel of some types of food in their mouth, then those aren't children that are just being difficult. Those are children that have sensory issues, and they're very, very real to those children. Those
Sure. Hmm.
sensory issues can make you feel like you want to crawl out of your own skin and you can't get away. So they're not going to impact every child, but some children will have them, and it's it absolutely can be something else that just gets in the way of learning. If you're bothered by your underwear tag, how are you supposed to pay attention in school all day when this is something that's just making you, want to get out of your own body?
Right, right. How about balance as a sensory input?
Again, I do know that there are some children that have balance issues or have fine motor problems or gross motor problems. It's definitely not across the board.
Hmm.
There have been some, you're probably familiar with, some treatment facilities that open up that work on those kind of balancing issues.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of any particular studies that show that will be any kind of a cure-all, but there are a lot of parents that feel for their children with balance issues that it's very helpful for
Right.
them.
I know as a martial artist, one of the tricks that we do as a fighting trick is that we learn to can absolutely control another person's balance, and it actually shuts off their brain. They can't do anything because you've gone into a system one brain function, and there's so much cognitive processing needed to maintain balance. And so on the other side of that, we develop our own balance. And I've seen a lot of kids with different learning disabilities just by developing balance and learning proprioception. Seems to have a pretty big effect. I know that there's one researcher who talks about vestibular input as a cause for like dyslexia and things. I don't know that that's 100% true, but I think that there's some lines of thought there.
Yeah, in addition to martial arts, I personally, my daughter was a horseback rider, my daughter with ADHD.
Hmm.
And it's a similar type of balancing side to side
Yes.
impact on the body. So there are a lot of people that also believe that something like that can be super helpful. So again, yeah, if that's something that is challenging for your child,
Uh-huh.
we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of our understanding between what we do with our bodies and how that impacts the areas of our brain that
Yeah, yeah. That was actually somewhere I was going to go with that, because I noticed you have a horse on your website, Bo.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so in martial arts, our primary stance is called a horse stance or horse riding stance, and it feels exact. I grew up riding horses, Western style. I,
Okay.
no clue if it's when it comes to English, but I did ride Western style every day of my life from age like 7 on. So, and the feeling of the stance in martial arts is exactly the same in our martial art. We're pushing the heels out, we're pushing the heels down, and of course you're posting. There's a huge crossover. So on your website, you did mention different types of mind-body exercises, and I was going to mention that I would actually consider horseback riding one of those.
Yeah.
One thing, and going back to balance, most people consider the vestibular input as your primary source of balance, and maybe the secondary source as your vision, your sense of the horizon. And I would argue that your feeling in your feet should be your primary source of balance. And of course, that's what horseback is going to train. Horseback riding is going to train that and really develop that. And since I think that that if there is a little bit of balance off, that it can so quickly override the brain and lose attention that maybe there's something to look at there. Maybe you were inadvertently helping your daughter out by the horseback riding.
Right, right. I know. We lucked out with that one.